Welcome back to our lesson, and this is the last part of Production Possibility Frontier, and this time we're going to show the last concept, which is economic growth. So last meeting we have discussed the concept of PPF and efficiency, and we said that all points inside the curve are inefficient, but they are attainable. And the efficient points are along the curve. So all points, regardless of where they can be found, they are efficient. Okay, because they are maximizing the resource. And letter D is, we called it pangarap. Okay, hindi niya pa kayang maabot. Now the question is, kaya bang maabot ang point D? Can we achieve point D? And that is something that every economy aspires, and we called it economic growth. Okay, economic growth is pertaining to the desire of countries to actually be progressive by hitting those previously unattainable production. So we can see right now that whenever we want to produce more, because the question is, can we produce more? Can we reach those points which are as of now unattainable? The answer is yes. Number one, if we are going to improve technology. Number two, we're going to discover more resources. Halimbawa sa oil, di ba, yung PPF natin maliit. For example, may na-discover na oil na very abundant dyan sa Mindanao. So we'll be having a PPF shift to the right. And the last one, of course, if the government would really like to support or to bank on the idea that it is indeed our priority. Okay? So yun lang yun. Institution, resources, and technology. Now, let's have the economic growth. We can see right now the graph right here. We have coconut and fish. So if we want to do economic growth, as of now, this is our production. And what will happen is, what are we going to do in order for us to increase production from 40 fishes to 50 and from 30 to 35? So pwede mag-produce ka ng technology, pwedeng of course if resources will be found, or if the government will support, we called it the outward shift. Now going to the two answers here, okay, skip natin to because this is the concept of economic growth. We can see right here that there are two answers whenever we discuss, can we produce more? Okay, the answer is yes. But also, can we produce less? Oo naman, pwedeng kumonti ang production, lalo na pag may mga tinatawag na external shock. We have here number one is the type of economic growth that is positive because the production is shifting to the right. So we can see the graph right here. We have butter, point A, and we have gun, point B. If we are going to produce more of both products, ito ang mangyayari. This will how would the graph look like. So as you can see, even without the values, by merely shifting to the right of the graph, you can see that there was an increase in terms of production. Kung lalagyan natin to ng value, let's say this is 10, and point C obviously lies this is 15, or perhaps for letter B this is like 20, and to point D this is 30. No matter, or even if there's no value assigned, we can see and we can sense using the graph alone that by shifting the arrow to the right, nag-increase ang production mo. So this is the first answer to the question, can we produce more? The answer is yes. We can shift to the right, or we call that the outward shift. For example, ngayong pandemic, halimbawa alcohol to, okay, and this is mask. Okay? So dati ang alcohol at saka mask hanggang dito lang sila because they're not really the priority. But because of the pandemic, there's a sudden surge of demand for both alcohol and mask. So right now, nag-increase ang production ng mask, nag-increase din ang production ng alcohol. So that is an example. However, class, there will be times, of course, that PPF will not always be, let's say, progressing or increasing. Sometimes it also shifts to the left, or we call that the leftward shift or the inward shift. Okay? So tingnan natin to. For example, because of the pandemic, ito yung production, let's say, sa tourism, yung mga hotel, okay, yung mga demand sa kanila. Ito naman yung mga theme park, okay? Aside from the butter and the gas, I'm now changing the example. Let's say, sa point Y, this is now yung demand sa hotel, the mga theme park for axis or x-axis. So we can see na bumaba talaga sila. Why? Because of the pandemic. You're not allowed to go out. People are not allowed to go out, especially when it comes to travel and entertainment or just making gala. So the PPF for both services, the hotel and the theme parks, actually shifted to the left. And we call that decrease or shift to the left. So napakasimple lang. We have two kinds of shift in the PPF. We have shift to the right, increased, and we have shift to the left, decreased. And then an economy, the goal of the economy is always to shift to the right whenever we want to produce things. However, class, there are times that, as what pandemic has shown to us right now, or has been showing, that because of uncontrollable situation or even bad policies, okay, the PPF may shift to the left. So maraming factor, but basically technology, resource, and the institution. Would like also to show the bias technological change. What if isa lang ang nagbago? We call that bias technological change. The bias technological change, it could be increase or decrease, but it's now based on the priority of the economy. Let's say here, as an example, bee and butter and guns, but all of a sudden, perhaps there's economy, they wanted to produce more butter, but they chose to retain guns, okay? So yun ang bias technological change, or it could be the other way around, okay? Bigyan ko yun ng example, halimbawa, math and science, nag-decide ka na, okay, mas ipaprioritize ko ang math next quarter, ang science, okay na ako dyan, still the same effort. Now, there you go. Ganun pa rin ang gagawin mo. But there's a bias change because you decided to add more hours sa math. So let's have the last example between this Panama and Mexico regarding economic growth. So we have two kinds of goods right now, the capital goods and the consumer goods. When you say capital goods, these are the things that you will produce or that you produce in order for you to invest and in order for you to be able to produce other stuff or other goods. For example, industries, facilities, infrastructures, yung mga ginagamit sa negosyo. Okay? So these are the capital goods. Kaya tinawag sila na capital. Meanwhile, the consumer goods right here, these are the final goods. Okay? Lahat ng mga nakita natin sa palengke, sa mall, na binibili na and kinukonsume. So these are the consumer goods. So why do we have to differentiate these two kinds of goods? If we want to achieve economic growth, the question is, which is better for the country to focus on? Is it the capital goods, which is, of course, for the investment, or for the consumer goods? They will focus on things producing the goods or the needs of people, and they will just have the people just have to buy. So in our case, you have Panama here. We can see that in the case of Panama, we can see the point here. Panama focused more on the consumer goods, okay? And we can see that the increase of the PPF, there was an increase, but it's not that big. Compared to Mexico, they decided to focus on the capital goods, meaning to say the government invested into a lot of facilities, infrastructures, roads, bridges, heavy industries, transportation, communication, which will enable other businesses to actually be established and will encourage the faster transportation and the faster flow of goods in the market. So we can see that their PPF in the future is possibly high. Kaya kung ang isang bansa, they wanted to grow economically, the lesson here is we have to focus on the capital goods. Meaning to say, it's the job of the government to motivate, to stimulate the economy by focusing on infrastructures. Kasi pag may mga infrastructures ka, may magandang daanan, may magandang kalsada, may mga bangko, may mga pautang para sa negosyante, the more people will decide to engage into a business. And as we all know, if more businesses will be established, it would result that the economy will prosper. Unlike na nakafocus tayo sa pagbebenta lamang, like smartphone, we are just consuming smartphone, but we do not have our own company of smartphone. We have several locals, but it's not enough to compete against the big ones. We are consuming cars, okay? But what if we produce cars? That will be the capital goods. So I hope that this short example will actually help us in terms of knowing the direction of the economy, which will be focused by the government. Now let's have our last example. Okay, let's keep that. And the example, all you have to do is to identify whether the PPF will shift to the left or shift to the right, increase or decrease. Let's have number one. So what if there's a strong earthquake? What will happen to the world's production because of that very strong earthquake? You're correct, the PPF will shift to the left. Why? Obviously, with the earthquake damaging all the resources, the PPF will decrease. Okay, we cannot produce even if we want to. Number two, there's a faster technology that was introduced for producing alcohol and face masks. As we all know, this pandemic, nagkakaroon ng ubusan, hoarding sa alcohol and face masks. What if there's a faster technology? Yes, of course, it's shift to the right. The PPF will increase. So it's very easy. All you have to do is to analyze what will happen to the production. Will it increase or decrease? I have two last examples for you now. Let's say the production of laptop and smartphone for online classes this pandemic. So what do you think is the motivation behind for the business people regarding the online classes, those who are selling laptop and smartphone? Are they going to produce more? Yes, of course. The PPF will shift to the right. With the government declaring that online classes should be done, there's a surge for the demand for laptop and smartphone. And the last one is the global warming. It increases the cost of producing agricultural goods. So what will happen? And you're correct. the PPF will shift to the left. So that is easy. That is how we analyze. It's based on our economic understanding. What will happen? Will you produce more, or will the economy be able to produce less? And that is the PPF for you and economic growth. I hope you learned something that would encourage you to read the economic situations using economic lens. Thank you.